The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Big Ben Haslar presiding. Will you all rise for the Honorable Judge Haslar? Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we are hearing the case of the people versus Scrooged. Scrooged is a 1988 comedic adaptation of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol starring Bill Murray as a selfish TV executive who must be shown the error of his ways by three Christmas spirits. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond the shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Ryan, the red-nosed reindeer Rodriguez, you are appearing on behalf of the prosecution. You may begin with your opening statement.
Thank you. In the pantheon of Charles Dickens' film adaptations, the field is incredibly diverse and wide-ranging, with highlights like David Lean's Great Expectations and, of course, the porno parody A Tale of Two Titties. Unfortunately, the movie I'm prosecuting today, Richard Donner's Scrooged, doesn't qualify as a highlight. In fact, The Muppet Christmas Carol is a better and more consistently creative version of Dickens' classic story, and all they did was add Muppets.
Hear, hear.
Glorious Muppets. Hell, just the name Fozziwig is more creative than anything in this movie. Through my arguments today, I will prove, among other things, that Scrooged is nothing more than a poor attempt to make a Tim Burton movie with none of the creativity or atmosphere or specificity of tone, from the design of the supernatural elements down to Danny Elfman's incongruous score, which is basically an overbearing choral holiday version of his theme for Tales from the Crypt. It feels like being bludgeoned by a cackling mall Santa elf with an oversized candy cane. I will prove that despite Richard Donner's often impressive resume, the film is poorly directed, often distractingly so. I will prove that the film's penchant for self-reference makes the very concept unpalatable. I will prove that the deep state and the lizard people conspired to murder Jeffrey Epstein in his jail cell. Wait, sorry, I got my notes jumbled there. To those who say Scrooged is a good movie, I say bullcrap. I mean bah humbug or whatever. Thanks, I guess, Your Honor.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. But we do love Danny Elfman in this courtroom, so I warn you, you are on thin ice, sir. Mr. The Vern, please present your opening statement.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and Your Honor, thank you very much. Scrooged is pinnacle Bill Murray. And I do mean pinnacle Bill Murray. When you think about Bill Murray, this is one of the movies that you most think about when you think of this famed actor. Now, is Scrooged the best adaptation of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol? No, it is not. But it is the one that is, for most people out there, the most memorable. Setting it in a modern day context makes the story's themes resonate more for people who watch it. When I was a kid, I did not really want to see A Christmas Carol because it just seemed a bunch of like old hoity-toity type of people in times that I had no idea what it was about.
One of them is Patrick Stewart, though. You're on thin ice, sir.
Okay. So updating it to like a modern day setting there with the television station just made it feel more. And the character of Bob Cross, played by Bill Murray, had the right tone of darkness to him, like the right sort of cynical tone that you want to have in a film like this. Plus, you got a great editor like Frederick Steenkamp, who also edited Tootsie, You got wonderful cinematography by Michael Chapman, who shot Raging Bull and The Fugitive. I never seen a Richard Donner comedy before this. I mean, this is the guy who's made The Omen, and he's made Superman, and he made Lethal Weapon. And while Lethal Weapon has comedy, he's never made just a straight comedy movie before. And by casting like Carol Kane and Bobcat Goldthwait's in this, Karen Allen as his love interest, there is just a lot of things and joy to love about this movie. And my major defense about this movie Scrooged is the fact that it has Bill Murray. Bill Murray in one of his most iconic roles. I know that him and Richard Donner did not get along, but that's besides the point, ladies and gentlemen of the jury and Your Honor. The fact is that both Richard Donner and Bill Murray made a really good Christmas classic, and I'm here today to prove that it is as iconic as it was in '88 as it is now. I rest my case and all that.
Whoa, he rests his case early.
Not
He is that
there.
confident.
But
We'll
Bill
allow
Murray,
you to
Your
walk
Honor.
that back, Mr. The Vern. Mr. Rodriguez, you may proceed with your opening exhibit.
Before my first exhibit, I do want to say that a little correction. This is not the first comedy that Richard Donner has directed. He also directed a 1982 movie called The Toy, in which a young rich white child buys a black man, played by Richard Pryor.
Much better film.
That's not a comedy.
Well, it was intended to be. You're right, it isn't funny,
The
so
intention
technically
is-
it's not a comedy, but it was meant to be. Now, unfortunately, Scrooged is much more The Toy than it is something like Lethal Weapon or perhaps Maverick, the more lighthearted kind of things. But I'll get to that in a little bit. But speaking about Richard Donner, my first exhibit is that this film is poorly directed. Now, the vast majority of the film is close-ups, which doesn't actually allow the audience to inhabit a space or determine an environment or even invest in the basic mechanics of a scene. I once
Objection.
watched...
The close-ups there to show Bob Cross's point of view, his persona. We're kind of following this movie through his eyes.
Well, to that, there's an entire scene where Bill Murray's character is approached by a mouse wrangler, as in a man who wrangles mice. And it cuts between Bill Murray's face, Karen Allen's face, the wrangler's face, and a close-up of the mouse with maybe 2 medium shots in the entire thing. It feels like nobody was on set at the same time. But the problem here
It
is
may
that...
not have been.
Well, they're literally standing 2 feet apart from each other, so I would hope that they're in the same frame at the same time. But Richard Donner began as a television director. He directed stuff like Gilligan's Island and a lot of TV westerns and the like. But when he graduated to the big leagues by directing The Omen and then Superman, he had this big kind of sweeping scale that he would put into his films. He had these big kind of like tapestries, like Lady Hawk is a really good example of that.
Yes.
Not a good example of a good movie, but a good example of that approach.
Whoa!
Now, the problem is that even though he graduated to the big screen, he directed this movie like television. He doesn't use specific shots for specific emphasis or tell the story of a scene. He just blocks it, puts 3 cameras wherever, and then becomes a director in the cutting room. It's a distractingly off-putting approach.
Well, objection in a way, because doesn't Scrooge take place in a television studio? I mean, they are shooting a TV adaptation of A Christmas Carol called Scrooge, complete with solid gold dancers and Mary Lou Renton. So would it make sense for them to shoot it like a TV show? I mean,
I wouldn't say so, because I think that you need to differentiate between the 2 worlds of the movie. You have the world of the making the television series, which if you're going to shoot that as television, that's fine. That's completely permissible. But the rest of the world, it's this supposedly gothic kind of fairy tale atmosphere, yet it's shot in a very pedestrian way, and often a confusingly pedestrian way. And I think
Maybe
that if you're
Donner-
separating the 2 worlds, that's not a good way to do it.
maybe Donner knew that this movie probably was going to be more of a classic on home video, so he was reframing it to fit more of like a TV scene, a TV screen back at the time.
Well, his
Or do we
ability
do
to
not
be an
deal with
oracle in
clairvoyance
the
in this
future...
courtroom?
his ability to notice that maybe some of his directorial styles will be better focused on television is not necessarily what's on trial here. We're talking about the movie that came out in theaters, and when you make a movie for theaters, it should probably look like a movie.
Fair enough.
Do you have a rebuttal to that, Mr. The Vern?
Okay, well, here's the thing, too. I mean, is it not shot with the grand much of, like, wide shots and thing we see all the characters on screen?
Not very many.
I'm just saying, yeah, like I said, if they may not show a lot of, like, wide grand scopes and, too many close-ups of people's faces, but hey, it's people's faces that we want to see. I want to see a close-up of Karen Allen. If the whole movie just had close-ups of Karen Allen's face.
Here.
That would be a great movie. I'm all happy for that. In fact, I want a cut where it's all just Karen Allen. Just
Yes.
I have no objection to the
Maybe
idea
some
of
Bobcat Goldthwait.
close-ups of these people. I have an objection to nothing but close-ups. Close-ups are supposed to signify something either emotional or that something is resonating with a character instead of just, well, I already did a wide shot, so let's just keep doing close-ups.
Okay, we'll have to let the jury decide whether the directing is well suited to this film or not. Mr. Rodriguez, do you have another point?
Yes, my second exhibit is that there is no room for nuance in the characters. Robert Mitchum plays the executive of the network that's ahead or on top of Bill Murray, not on top of, but on the top. And it's a completely kind of wasted potential in that he's this stern boss that you see in every corporate set comedy. Like if you made Liar Liar about people who make television instead of lawyers, he would be the boss character in that movie. It's very kind of generic. Karen Allen is the ball of pure sunshine that has really no dimension to her other than the fact that, hey, it's Karen Allen. Don't you like to see Karen Allen?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I do, but there needs to be something more than that.
Well, thank you for stipulating that, Counselor.
Carol Kane is really the only one who actually seems to get it, and that she actually plays scenes on kind of two different levels. And my biggest problem is Bill Murray, who is somehow a cartoonish villain, but I don't believe him, which is weird because Bill Murray always has a hint of malice to him. You always get the sense whenever he's making some kind of wisecrack that maybe there's something dark underneath the surface, but he seems to be contemptuous of the role and yet still overplays it. And to speak to his character, so his backstory is that he's a piece of shit because his dad didn't give him presents. Cry me a river. His mom seemed nice, she told him that she loved him, and his dad gave him 5 pounds of veal for Christmas. I got a book on sharing for my 6th birthday, and I turned out fine. I've only murdered 3 drifters, and I probably got it out of my system. The worst part about the Bill Murray character is that he somehow makes me pine for the multi-dimensional portrayal of Terry Silver, the villain from The Karate Kid Part 3, whose personality seems to be that he has a ponytail and that he's evil as shit. That's about it.
All right, Mr. The Vern, do you have a rebuttal to the presence of the characters?
Okay, first of all, with Bill Murray and Bob Cross doesn't get, mean and spiteful because his dad didn't give any gifts for Christmas. It progressed even more than that when David Johansen, as the Ghost of Christmas Past, was showing him
another
stuff
wasted
from
character.
His youth. What's that?
Another wasted character, David Johansen of the New York Dolls as the cabbie.
That cabbie was great. Showing him scenes from his past, and it's all about Bill Murray had a drive to succeed and be the best that he could actually be. And there's one moment where he's at a Christmas office party, and the office slut is kind of going after him, and he says, "Oh, I was such an idiot, I could have had her." And the cabbie goes, "No, this is your lovely life," and shows Karen Allen. And I admit that moment they have together is very cliche, but fuck it, it's cute, it's heartwarming, I love it. And so after he becomes, in a relationship with her and he starts to become more successful in his TV career, he has to make a choice. And his choice is to become bigger with Frisbee, the dog show, or go on a date with Karen Allen's character to visit her friends for Christmas Eve, and he chooses the path of being a rich person. So it's in a long way here, his redemption comes at the cost of it. So he has to really work hard and so he becomes successful. He becomes kind of a bitter TV executive, doesn't care about anyone because he's upset that the girl that he loved didn't stick by him, and he starts to learn through the course of the movie that he's kind of a big asshole. And I love the whole cynical nature of him. I love the fact where when he first fires Bobcat Goldthwait's character, and his secretary goes, "You're gonna fire him on Christmas?" And he's like, "Thank you." Cancel his bonus. Yes. Just the bonus too, where he's like, even talking about the Mouse Wrangler, and the Mouse Wrangler's like, "I can't get these antlers to stick to the head," and he's like, "Have you tried staplers?" And just all of his like backhanded compliments, his dark take on everything is just, I don't know. I found it to be extremely funny. In fact, his dark take on everything is the main reason why I wanted to watch this movie. This movie came out in '88. I must have been around like 12, 13 years old. And I was like really into like dark humor. I just saw a preview of Heathers and I'm like, oh yes, I gotta watch something with more dark, cynical thing before it becomes trendy in the 90s. And so I really have to watch Scrooged. And that's just a long way of saying that. I love all of Bill Murray's dark takes on everything. I like his whole redemption. There's a heartwarming moment when, after he gets beat up by the ghost of Christmas Past, Carol Kane, in a great role, he sees one of the homeless people from the shelter that his girlfriend works at, and he's dead. And he's like, "No, I could have done something more." And I think he has a big turn-on character in the movie. Sorry, that's a long way of saying that, but I think that he actually
How about the other characters that Mr. Rodriguez mentioned?
Well, like, was there... Oh,
Karen Allen being a ball of sunshine.
Well, she's a ball of sunshine. She's the actual... Yeah, she's the sunshine to Bob Clark's doom. Not Bob Clark. What am I thinking here?
Bob Cross.
It's Frank.
Thinking of the director of A Christmas
Cross.
Story.
It's Frank Cross.
It is Frank Cross.
Yes.
Fuck. All right.
What I said, right.
Frank Cross. Yeah. She's the actual, person there that is loving him. And in fact, I think both couples kind of work together because he's a person that's all about business and success, and she's about warm in life. And he actually has some points to her like, hey, you can't let people take advantage of you. And she's like, you gotta learn to like love people a little bit more. So I don't know. I think they had a nice little yin and yang. So the whole thing of opposites attract, that's the case in this movie.
I think you hit the nail on the head of why I think that there's an issue with the character that Karen Allen plays, is that she only exists in the story to be the guiding light for Bill Murray's character to actually have a redemption in the end. It's not organic. And it's not multifaceted. She is just there. She's not there to be anything but a ball of sunshine, is my key complaint.
I can't really complain about that. She's a ball of sunshine, and I don't know what's wrong with that. I mean...
That she should have dimension. That she should have something to do in the story other than be a redemption for a male character that is not her.
And essentially always come crawling back to him.
Yes. Despite all the horrible shit that he does, she keeps coming back to him. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Objection, Your Honor.
Mr. Rodriguez, I would say if I had the choice of being a poor person and a rich person in a dog suit, I would choose being a rich person in a dog suit.
Fair enough.
Wait, so are you just a poor person in a dog suit right now?
Exactly. Do you have a third point, Mr. Rodriguez?
I do. My third exhibit is the strange tone. It's not sufficiently dark enough to have a personal resonance, just dark enough to be unpleasant. And there is a level of Three Stooges violence that undercuts a lot of it. There's a scene early on, and this is a runner that goes through the movie, where the Bill Murray character is trying to get stuff past the network censor for his live broadcast of Scrooge. And at first, it's the fact that the dancer's nipples are almost completely exposed, and she gets bonked on the head with a street light, and by Bill Murray. And this is played for a crude kind of laugh that is not consistent with kind of the rest of the movie. And then it becomes this runner of her constantly getting the shit beat out of her. And it's like anytime the movie is approaching a sustainable mood or consistency, Richard Donner can't help go but bonk, whoa, pick a lane and commit. And
Mr. the Vern?
Yeah, I know about all those moments you're talking about. And is there a consistent tone with it? Of course not. All right. I mean, but
let's end the case right here then. Thank you.
No. But I will object to say that there's not merit to it, though. I mean, at the time when this movie came out, there's been a lot of flack about TV censors. I mean, think about though. 1988, I think Fox TV station was coming around at the time, and with
yes, it started the year before.
But yeah, Marriage Children and The Simpsons, and there's been a lot of flack about TV censors and everything. And I'm pretty sure that this movie was kind of a comment on the whole thing. Him kind of poking fun at the whole idea of censorship. And it's like, I'm going to attack censorship by attacking my censor with a baseball bat or a lampshade or whatever. I'm going to treat it very cartoony because it all is just fun and entertainment right there. But even though the movie does have that slapstick moments right there, it does have some moments with some heartfelt moments and sincerity. And you got to think about the family, the sort of like Bob Cratchit type role taking over. And I'm just trying to blink on that actor's name.
I do want the record to state that it's okay to beat up censors because they're censors. Let's just make that point was made.
Sorry. Great.
That was almost my second career path, Mr. Rodriguez. I'm glad I steered clear of it.
Yeah, the character of Grace Cooley, played by Alfred Woodard. I'm going to miss her name.
Woodard.
I apologize.
Very
And
good.
her and her family there. Her young son, Calvin, can't speak. There's a lot of good, heartwarming moments in that movie, too. And especially at the very end, when he does say, God bless us, everyone. And I'm sorry, that part right there. If you don't have at least a little teary eye in your head right there when that moment comes on, I question your humanity. There.
Mr. Rodriguez, does he question your humanity?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the defense for stating that my point about the tone being strange is correct. So at the end of the movie, now that you brought it up, so everyone is falling for this supposed change of heart. And I need to set the stage a little bit. Bill Murray is visited by three ghosts because it's a Christmas Carol, and gradually, supposedly, becomes a better person throughout the movie, although it's not actually evident. And at the end of the movie, he interrupts the live broadcast of Scrooge to have basically a rambling breakdown that Murray actually improvised, and you could tell because it's it's shitty.
Oh yeah.
It galvanizes the crew and it brings everybody closer together with every minute as they kind of ooh and ah and just kind of embrace this person who's been nothing but terrible to them for not only the entire movie, his entire life. And as all this is happening, the only way he got back into the studio was with the client that his employee that he fired earlier in the movie, played by Bobcat Goldthwait, who goes from this kind of pointlessly nebbishy character to a violently evil drunk who breaks into the building and holds the entire technical booth hostage with a shotgun. Now, everybody's falling for this supposed redemption of Bill Murray to the point that one of the dancers makes out with him. So I gotta ask, while all this is happening, upstairs there is a hostage situation. What is the baseline? What am I supposed to care about, and why am I supposed to care? If you show me that Bill Murray is supposedly becoming a better person, you can't cut upstairs and show a woman cowering in fear because she's going to be shot in the back of the head. What the hell is going on here?
Mr. the Vern, what the hell is going on there?
All right. What the hell is going on there? Fuck me. All right, no. I can't. I do agree with the prosecutor right there about, yes, it's true that Bob Cross or Frank Cross has been an asshole throughout this whole entire movie, and then all of a sudden he gets out of an elevator and suddenly he's all good and happy. If I was part of that cast and crew, I'm thinking, well, the boss is high on something, but I'm taking advantage of this right now if I can. If I get some sort of raise out of this, let's keep him high. Let's keep him happy. Let's keep it going. Oh shit, there's people being held hostage. Oh fuck yeah, I'm definitely gonna be happy now. I'm not gonna fucking be upset at all or scared because he may fucking kill me and shoot me. I gotta be really happy and super thrilled that it's Christmas time. Gosh, I think we see his character become a good person, and maybe because that's the fear of him dying, because he does visit the ghost of a Christmas future, and he is at his own funeral, and that moment when he's in the box and he's on fire, when I was a kid watching that scared me. There's actually two moments in this movie that really scared me, but that one right there, being burned alive in a coffin. I'm very claustrophobic, so being in a tight space with flames all around me would just be really fucking terrifying. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the moments when Frank Cross actually is good and true. None of the other characters in the movie see him being good. They just see him being really happy. But he doesn't quite make the change. It's not the change he made in Groundhog's Day, which is a very, very, what you call it here, a good change. That's a nice piece change there, Groundhog's Day. Man, I honestly, this would be the first time in my years of being a cinema lawyer, of all the years, that it's going to be really hard to really defend the moments at the very end of it. I mean, I like it. I think it's funny, but in the context of the story, I have to agree with the prosecutor there. It just doesn't make much sense, and I wish there was an ending that happened with Bob Frank Cross and the family in the movie.
You'll have a chance to bring up the film's good points, though, that may outweigh it.
Okay.
And then the jury can deliberate accordingly.
Okay.
Mr. Rodriguez, does that do it for your case?
No, I have a few more exhibits,
Oh,
but
no.
I also want to
Go, man,
add
go.
that if you add just a few choice words to his end monologue, it becomes a very average televangelist speech. And that's not really part of a joke. That's just shitty movie making. Okay, fourth exhibit. In acknowledging that Dickens exists, does that mean that the elemental forces of time and space, which I have it on good authority existed before the 1800s, are just big Dickens fans and modeled their system of reforming rotten bastards on one of his books? It's a self-referential trap that I like to call the Ernest Cline paradox, a snake eating its own pop culture tail. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm not sure, is this a parody? Is it an adaptation? Neither. It's like adding layers to an onion, not pulling them back, but taking other layers of other onions with duct tape and putting them on an onion.
That's interesting. I didn't even think about that.
To that I
Mr.
say,
Vern?
Scrooged is probably the only modern adaptation of A Christmas Carol, the only successful modern adaptation of A Christmas Carol, because since this movie, they've never tried to put the movie Christmas Carol into a modern context before. Each adaptation has put it back into the original 16th, 17th century, Muppet Christmas Carol. Then we had Disney's Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey. Everything is just set in the old Victorian age. And I have to admire filmmaker Richard Donner for taking a chance and doing a modern adaptation with this movie and making it more of a comedy. I will say this, though, as much as I love A Muppet Christmas Carol, that Scrooged is way more funnier.
Oh,
Objection.
wow.
Objection.
You're on thin ice, counselor.
Get 'em.
Mr. Rodriguez, your next point?
Well, I just want to have my objection realized.
Your objection is realized.
To say something so terrible about the Muppet Christmas Carol that it's not as good as Scrooge, that is the most insulting thing
I
you
didn't
could
say
possibly say. That's exactly what
Objection.
you said.
Double objection right there. I didn't say that Muppet Christmas Carol.
Break it up in the court.
I just want to make sure that the defense
just say
acknowledges that it is a better movie.
I'm just saying I laughed more at I laughed more at Scrooged than I did Muppet Christmas Carol. Muppet Christmas Carol is probably a better made movie, but
Oh,
I still
yes.
laughed more.
We are on
Because-
agreement on that.
I like when people get held hostage in TV control rooms. I think it's funny.
That goes in the file.
All right. Well, I really don't have a rebuttal to that part. My last exhibit is that there is nothing in the movie that's gothic enough or atmospheric enough to justify the bombast of Danny Elfman's score, which overpowers the movie and feels ill at ease with the flat, mediocre visuals. Everything from the production design to the lighting to even the basic themes of the movie feel like someone without an actual vision trying to approximate Tim Burton, which becomes even more galling when you realize that Tim Burton made Beetlejuice the same year with half the resources and half the hype. And in that movie, you have a genuine 80s classic. You have a genuine classic, regardless of what decade it came out in. And just even putting the two in the same prism, this one cannot hold up to that. But I guess that part is not actually on trial. What I'm trying to say is that the individual elements of the film don't actually work in its favor. I would actually take the Danny Elfman score, and maybe if you put it on a 45 and I listened to it that way and had no movie to put it to, I might actually enjoy it. But put in this movie, I don't know what movie it thinks it's part of.
Well, the Danny Elfman score is about the same type of Danny Elfman score that he's done for 50 Shades of Grey or other lesser movies. Yeah, it just doesn't really. I didn't even know that Danny Elfman did the score until you mentioned it, and so that really just kind of surprised me because it does not feel like Danny Elfman type of score that he's done for Tim Burton. I mean, like, yeah, it's not even a question there. I do like other aspects of the movie. Like I mentioned before, I think it's shot well. You got good director of photography, Michael Chapman, did The Fugitive, did Raging Bull, did this.
Ghostbusters 2?
Yep. Production
Oh,
designer.
a classic.
Come on, the person who did the set design, production design, also did the set design for Blade Runner.
Yes. J. Michael Riva, R.I.P.
See, so I gotta like respect that right there. I think that the costumes are all very well and good. They represent his character very well, especially the cabbie, the Ghost of Christmas Present, Frank Cross. And I like the fact too that Scrooged is set in the 80s, the era of the me era, and everyone was just about themselves. And so setting it in a TV studio with executives thinking about just themselves makes perfect sense. So Scrooged could not be made today. It was a perfect movie for the 80s, and I still think that the set design is good. I do agree that some of the characters are off and away, but I still have a lot of fun with this movie, mainly because of Bill Murray. I just think that he's probably the best thing in the movie. Is his character the best written? No, but I still think that he has a lot of weight, a lot of nuance to it, and that's all I have to say. Your Honor, your jury, that's it.
You rest your case a second time.
I don't know lawyer terms here. I rest my statement here. You're
no worries. I still
witness.
don't know what I'm doing here, and I've been here for 5 months.
You're witness.
Is that it for your case, Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, it is. I rest my case.
Very well. Both the prosecution and the defense have rested their cases. Mr. Rodriguez, please proceed with your closing argument.
It was the best of source material. It was the worst of movies. Other Charles Dickens quotes. This would be a lot easier if I'd read a single one of his books and didn't pull that quote off of Google. Scrooged is an imperfect example of a seemingly good director making baffling choices, if making choices at all, in service of a confused script without a sense of tone or balance. The screen populated with shallow characters played by usually great, utterly uninspired actors. I'm not going to belabor the point and pretend that my grievances are complicated. Just allow me to speak from the heart about Scrooged, from the soul, from the solar plexus. Movie not innocent. Me not like movie. Murray bad. Opposing counselor wrong. Make right decision. Vote with conscience. Movie guilty. Rest case.
Ooh, he felt good.
Very moving, counselor. Very moving indeed. Defense, your closing argument, please.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, may I please present Bill Murray. We all know him. We all love Bill Murray. And I will just say that Scrooged is a... Let's put it this way, folks. Scrooged is not the best adaptation of A Christmas Carol. We all know and agree that it is the Muppet Christmas Carol, and
Here.
thinking, Lord, whenever that I do not have to defend Scrooged against a Muppet Christmas Carol because I would be definitely screwed in a way. But
You'd be Scrooged.
Scrooged, yes.
Oh,
Boo!
But here's the
Order
thing,
in
too.
court,
I think-
Mr. Maynard. You're on thin
I
ice.
think the tone of Scrooged, as off the wall as it is, works perfect for this movie. Even from the very beginning, when you see a bunch of terrorists invade Santa's workshop, and that's going to be a new show for this TV station, right then and there, you should know what type of tone this movie is going to be. It's going to have elements of violence, but it's going to be set in Christmas time. In fact, I do believe that Scrooged is the first example of maybe putting violent, really off-the-wall violent material into a Christmas movie and making it light and heartfelt and funny. Like, I know when I saw this movie when I was a kid, having Santa grab a machine gun and start blowing away terrorists was just extremely funny because Die Hard was a big movie at the time, and I'm going way off base here. I know I am, and I apologize, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, but I still have to say the movie has great elements of tone of being slapstickly funny. I mean, there are moments where, yes, I'm the person that laughs when a pie gets thrown in the face. I laugh when a censor gets her head, spludged with a fucking street lamp, but all at the same time too with the Frank Cross's assistant and her family. It's got elements of heartwarming joy. You got Karen Allen also being heartwarming and joy. Bill Murray doing his cynical best. I want to say this, folks. Watch it, and if you laugh, I win my case because I think the movie's funny. As an adaptation, there's a whole different rules right there, but I'm still going to say Scrooged is a fine movie. It's a funny movie. I still laugh at it completely, and I guarantee it, if you watch the movie, you're going to find something to laugh about as well. And I know you out there as a jury, you know this movie, you watched it, you laughed at it, you enjoyed it. You got Bill Murray, Carol Kane, Karen Allen. What more did you? Bobcat Goldthwait, and the pinnacle of Bobcat Goldthwait. I shouldn't have to even defend the movie anymore because it has Bobcat Goldthwait, who's one of our uprising comedians and film directors as well. Film director Bobcat Goldthwait is in this movie. What more do you want? It's perfect. That's it. It's Scrooged. It's got a lot of funny elements into it. It's heartwarming. It's simple. It's probably the most easiest way to watch a Christmas Carol. It's like the Cliff Notes version of A Christmas Carol, and that's all we really want in a movie. Just a really short 90-minute take on the themes of the movie, and I think it just does it perfectly. That's it, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I leave this in your hands, and if you think I'm right, great, and if not, we can still have a beer.
Thank you, Mr. The Vern. You have gone through the metal detector and have no shotguns on you, correct? You can't hold the jury hostage through this process.
I can't? Fuck. Oh.
All right.
Putting away my
Thank you very
gun
much.
right now.
Members of the jury, Mr. Robb Maynard, Little Ben Haslar, and Big Papa Schlender, you have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict. Aye, this movie's Scrooged!
all right, everybody. I'm the foreman today. Big Papa Schlender, foreman. I like it. All right. So let's start counterclockwise with my good friend Robb Maynard. What did you think of today's?
Oh, that was your good friend. Aw.
Yes, you are my good friend, but you're sitting to my left. What can I do?
Oh, okay.
God, where do I start with this movie? Just going on the two sides of the arguments, I think the prosecution nailed it with calling out them for kind of, trying to channel Tim Burton, obviously using Danny Elfman in the score, but also as soon as it opened, right, and they were doing that sort of sweeping shot over the Christmas city, I mean, I was like, Beetlejuice. I mean, even though it's the same year, I don't know if they were able to see that opening and film that quickly, but like, that's so Beetlejuice. And then, you know, some other points that he brought up is, you know, Karen Allen, who is radiant and lovely. I love seeing lots of Karen Allen, but she does exist in here only as a one-dimensional commodity to be one back. You know, she's not really a person in that way.
You know, which is an interesting choice, because in the original Christmas Carol, you know, he does have the love interest in the past, but he doesn't get back with her at the end.
No.
So.
And he's such a scumbag to her. And in front of her, why she has this infinite patience to him kind of makes her really unrealistic.
That was puzzling to me too. I was like waiting for that other shoe to drop. Like, okay, but why?
Well, what's weird is it's inconsistent. Like, she breaks up with him at first because rather than wanting to go to dinner with their mutual friends, he was invited to dinner with like the president of the network, and it's like, Karen Allen, I love you, but this is an opportunity that helps both of us. Let's go to dinner with the president and see your friends tomorrow. They're our friends. They'll understand. But she has no patience for that. And then later, when he's being a total jackass in the shelter and being rude to everybody, she seems to have infinite patience for him.
That's a fair point.
And she shows up like at a moment's notice, which is weird to me. Like, oh, I haven't heard from you in years. Boom, I'm back. Oh, you yell at me? Okay, boom,
well,
I'm
he
back.
called her. He called her.
Right, no, I know that, but I mean, like, he calls her twice, and she's still just like always there for him, just at a moment's notice.
Yeah, it's true. You're not going to get me to believe that Karen Allen hasn't found somebody else.
Oh no.
So moving on from Karen Allen, looking at some other characters, we have to do it. So that was a big point that Ryan, the prosecution, was making, that a lot of characters didn't have dimension. Is that how you guys were feeling?
Well, besides that, who are the other characters? You've got Bobcat Goldthwait, who was clearly supposed to be like Rick Moranis. But I'm sure Moranis was like, I'm not holding a shotgun to people. Like, I'm supposed to be in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and stuff. Like, I'm not doing that part. And so they get Bobcat to do it, who's great. I do love Bobcat. I would disagree that this is pinnacle Bobcat, because that's probably hot to trot.
Not Shakes the Clown.
Come on, Chase the Clown.
Seconded.
Yeah, but none of them have a talking horse. But Bobcat's character, you know, he's not the Bob Cratchit analog, right? That's his assistant was Grace.
Yes.
Who I like. She doesn't get a lot of screen time, but she comes off as one of the more sincere characters in the movie. And I think it was mentioned earlier that this movie was somehow sincere, and I'd have to disagree. Nothing about this movie felt sincere at any point.
You know, I have to agree with you there, and I think Ryan, when he said, like, this movie just had this underlining unpleasantness punctuated by, like, the slapstick violence, I really felt that. Like, every time, like, there was a bonk or a slap, like, the Ghost of Christmas Past always, like, hitting him in the face and stuff like that.
No. I understand your mistake. She's the Ghost of Christmas Present.
Oh, that was the Ghost
which
of
is
Christmas
another
Present.
thing that confuses me, is Carol Kane is, like, dressed as a fairy and a pixie, and she's the Ghost of Christmas Present, and the way she's portrayed, we would usually think as being the Ghost of Christmas Past. And then the cabbie, who I think is actually my personal favorite character in this whole movie, is David Johansen as the cabbie. I think he's funny, and he works to me the whole way through.
See, by switching costumes, it subverts.
Get this lawyer out of here! Get this lawyer out of here! You're not allowed in the jury room.
We need to put a lock on that door one of these.
We got to put a lock on the door, or a bell on those lawyers or something.
Well, there is a lock on it, but it's a Dutch door, and the bottom half doesn't lock.
God,
no, you put a sock on it, not
Get
a
out
lock.
of here, too, lawyer. So to me, David Johansen was perfect. But again, why was the cabbie not the Ghost of Christmas Present? Because we see Karen Allen get a ride later from the cabbie, so he's clearly like a real dude, or able to interact corporeally with this world, because he gives her a ride to the finale.
We see all the ghosts at the end, though, don't we?
Yes, but the cabbie has to be more than just a ghost that only Murray can see, because she can clearly see him and receive a ride in his cab. So he must exist in the physical world. So he makes more sense as the ghost of Christmas Present. So it was weird that they swapped those
Yeah,
two.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. And in the book too, the way the Ghost of Christmas Past is described, it's very bizarre, and you don't really see it in the movies. He's like a short guy with big muscular arms and like an old face and long hair, and his head's
it's
on
you.
fire. No, I would definitely be the Ghost of Christmas Present because I'm so jovial and I barely fit into rooms. What are you thinking, Ben? You've been pretty quiet. You got to have some thoughts here.
I think that this movie has probably a lot of nostalgia for certain people. If you just happen to grow up in that right certain sweet spot for when Bill Murray was, at his peak or whatever, you might like it. But I think if you still like it, it's with those sort of nostalgia goggles on it. When you look at this movie just straight up, it's very 50-50 for me. There's something I might like about it, but then there's always something I dislike about it coming right after it. And it's just that all the way through. It's even at the end, it's just like he snaps out and he's like, it's this supposedly great moment. And it seems like, yeah, Bill Murray is sort of acting very well here. But what happened before that? Nothing that like led into a, in a well-written way. It was just like snap this way, snap that way.
Which part did you think he acted well in?
I honestly, I liked where he's on the stage and crying and like sort of surrounded by everybody. It was weirdly staged, but I thought his Barents in it was decent.
I thought that was probably the worst part of the movie was the ending where he comes back and is just ranting on the stage. And to me, it shows like if you trimmed half of that,
a Christmas song is the worst part at the end.
yeah, and he's calling people who are clearly not there to sing. And it's painful. It's like pull your teeth out painful. It's terrible. And I kind of waver. There's parts of Murray I like in this movie. I don't think this is peak Murray, right? He had 4 years hiatus before this film. And to me, it kind of shows. Like I like him as scumbag executive in the beginning. Mm-hmm. But once he starts getting visited by the ghost and he's just kind of like screaming and erratic, it doesn't work. It's annoying.
Like when he says, "Have you tried a staple?" I literally thought that was a great joke.
That's funny. I like that. I love when he fired Bobcat earlier.
Yeah,
I think that was
cancel
mentioned.
His bonus.
That's great. All that hits, but
it's very Venkman though, so it's not unfamiliar territory to him.
Yeah, to me, one huge mistake though that the defense made, they brought up Groundhog Day, which reminds me of like, here's Bill Murray in an actual redemption story where I care about his character. And I know he's a dick, but he's a funny dick, and I want to see him turn his life around and get everything better. And to me, that was a crucial error to bring up such a better movie that Murray's done. That was it. So for me, I'm voting guilty. Okay. There's things about this that make me laugh. There's a couple of design decisions of characters like the cabbie that I like, but overall, I would not watch this movie again unless someone really made me. And I do want to mention that 2012's It's Christmas Carol with Carrie Fisher is also a modern day adaptation of A Christmas Carol. So,
fair enough. All right, Big Ben, how are you coming down?
Yeah, ditto, Rob. I'm thinking guilty. There are things that like pull it out, but not enough to move it towards being mediocre for me. There's just too much there that sort of leaves me feeling icky inside. And yeah, I think the prosecution pretty much nailed it with all his points. Even like with the Dickens within Dickens, I didn't even think about that. It makes zero sense whatsoever. And the other thing, it feels like such a cynical cash grab on it. It's very much a product, which I know a lot of Christmas movies are a product because people like looked at this time, they look like getting together and watching movies and stuff. But this feels like a cynical product that doesn't get the tone of Christmas or the tone of Dickens' original novel either. It's just very, very cynical throughout.
Yeah, and honestly, I gotta say the prosecution just hit on so many points that I was kind of feeling. I think one of the things that would have been interesting in the movie would have been the Ghost of Christmas Future having like the TV face. That could have been like a really interesting thing, and they didn't do anything with it. Like all their interesting ideas fell flat, and then just to end the movie with the Murray rambling at the end. I mean, I agree with Rob that it's like pull your teeth out painful. And I love Bill Murray. Ghostbusters is like my favorite movie, as you guys know. And it's just like, man, I don't think I'd watch this one again. So I'm going to make it unanimous and say guilty as well.
Oh, well, we're unanimous, so.
Yeah, I know, which usually doesn't happen. And I was thinking about being a contrarian, but I just can't do it for this movie. I just can't.
It doesn't
do
deserve
All
it.
Not the hill you're willing to die on.
Yeah, no, I can't think of it. It's just, and like with the TV scene with the gun on them, and it's just so madcap.
Oh, that is
at the
so.
end.
That guy holding everyone hostage
Yeah.
is so weird. It makes no sense every time I watch it.
I will say though, I did like Robert Mitchum just because I like seeing Robert Mitchum in things. So.
No, there's little thing. I do like Robert Mitchum. I don't understand why he's nice at the end, but I also liked the beginning with Lee Majors and Robert Goulet and those
those were
commercials.
good bits. Like
those hit.
The first 15 minutes of the movie's pretty solid.
Yeah.
That commercial's like billed as being like so violent, people can't stand it though, and it's like this actually seems kind of tame even by then standards.
Well, no, actually, that was a good point that Vern brought up though. It's like it was more of a commentary at the standards at the time. Like TV was moving in that hyper violent direction. The censors were getting a little prissy about things, So there might have been some commentary there, but it was very.
Anyway, speaking of censors, I'm cutting you guys off. Let's get out there and deliver a verdict.
Agreed.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's me, isn't it?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman, have you reached the verdict?
Your Honor, we have. In the case of the People versus Scrooge, we find the defendant guilty of being a bad movie.
The people are wrong! They're wrong!
Order in the court. Restrain this man. Restrain this man.
I'll get my
The
gun.
verdict is so rendered. I sentence Bill Murray to sign on for movies he actually believes in and to get a damn haircut. Court is adjourned.
This is Yuletide Brenner, reporting to you live from outside the Reels of Justice. Mr. Rodriguez, would you care to share your thoughts on the jury's verdict?
Look, we all said a lot of things today, some of which we can't take back. But the one thing that I want to make sure is communicated to those out there listening is that the Muppet Christmas Carol is regarded as the greatest adaptation of A Christmas Carol. Thank you, and good night.
Here, I must agree. I watch that with my grandchildren every year. Thank you. And here comes the Vern. Oh my. Excuse me, the Vern. Could we get a word on how you feel about today's verdict?
You know what? After looking back at what the prosecution had to say about Scrooged and hearing the verdict, I'm not at all really that upset. I do realize that this is a movie that I myself have loved and others have loved and will continue to love. So regardless of this verdict, I know that myself and other old fogies like myself will probably rewatch this and laugh at things. And I do agree as a whole of a movie. Yeah, there are some messes to it, but does it make me laugh? Of course it does. And maybe, yes, I was looking at it through nostalgic lenses and fuck it, I don't care. I still have a great time with the movie. There are parts of it that don't make sense, and for my defense, I did not look at it in modern eyes like I should have. I was rose-colored tinted, but at least we all agree that Muppet Christmas Carol is actually a better movie, and I'm glad that both the prosecution and defense can agree on that, and I'm hoping that we can all be friends. But you heard me. I swear. No.
All right, there's no crying on the courthouse steps of the Reels of Justice. Give me my microphone back. That's all time we have from the courthouse today. Let's go back to the studio for post-trial analysis. All right. That was not a very good Yule Brenner. But that was Yuletide Brenner.
Yeah.
So
That was supposed to be Yule Brenner.
well, no, it's supposed to be Yuletide Brenner. I don't know what Yule Brenner
Brenner doesn't
sounds
do a
like.
good Yuletide Brenner. That's the distinction.
Yeah, I don't know what Yule Brenner sounds like. I realized when I started saying it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right.
Anyway, that was a great trial. I think the movie did deserve to be guilty. But we took it. I think we looked at it in the right way. There were some great stuff, but more bad stuff, I gotta say.
Yeah, like the Robert Goulet Christmas on the Bayou or whatever that joke was at the beginning. That was funny.
Yeah, that is
my issue with that stuff is that it's funny, but it's also like SCTV did that stuff all the time and did it without the actual people, and it was still funnier. Like, that was the one part that I kept looking at and going like, oh, come on. I mean, like, yeah, okay, interesting premise, but it's even that it's not that strong. I
But
don't know.
it's not that strong, but it is one of the stronger moments in the movie.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
that-
my
and-
favorite part of the movie.
So
That and when he says they're going to scare the dickens out of everyone. I love that.
Yeah, that was funny. I forgot about
Oh, that was pretty great.
It really is the ending that kind of tanks it. That it goes on way too
Yeah.
long, and Murray is not good.
Well,
It
how
should have
I
been
love
scripted. If it was scripted, it probably would have been actually more like believable. But instead,
what
it's him going out there and just being like, "Okay, what did I learn in this movie over 3 months of shooting?" And then it really feels very incoherent.
I would love to see the script for the movie to know what they had in mind, because what it feels like is they do the script for the first 10-15 minutes and then Murray just does whatever he wants for the next hour.
that.
And
That's true with
It's one of the
Murray films,
great
probably.
compromised scripts.
Yeah.
Supposedly, like Michael O'Donoghue had written something that was kind of like probably wouldn't be that mainstream, but was something that was a little more transcendent. And he was gutted when the movie came out. Like he was heartbroken.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah, I could see that. But anyway, Vern, you came in and you know, just because the movie was found guilty of being a bad movie doesn't mean you can't like it and love it. I love lots of bad movies.
Fair enough. See, yeah, and I actually enjoyed a lot what Ryan had to say about the movie, because it made me go, "Oh shit, that's right." Like the end of the scene, when he brought up the end, and like, "Oh fuck, I'm screwed. I can't fucking defend this part there. What can I do to defend this guy's holding someone hostage there? My case is over here. I'm like, God damn, I have nothing else to really back up here." Because
That's why we call him
also-
Ruthless Ryan Rodriguez.
Also,
Yep, all the time.
the character of Karen Allen too, just kind of being there. Like, why would she come back to Frank Cross? I mean, he hasn't spoken to this girl in like 20 years, was it? 15, 20 years?
Oh, had to have been.
No,
yeah.
I'd say 5. No more than 5.
I think 5 years.
Either way, all right. The fact that she actually
Maybe 10.
was she listening for his phone call, because she seemed to contact him back right away. Didn't just call him back. No, appears at the television studio. Like, appears.
Right.
On like Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
For the entire 10 years, all she did was stand by her phone and wait for him to call her.
Seemingly.
He is rich, keep in mind.
Yeah, just
well, that's
zero way Karen Allen is staying single that long.
Yeah.
It's just
And
not
it
happening.
bummed me out because she's Marion Ravenwood. She's the toughest
Right.
woman
Yeah.
in fiction at that point in that decade. Like, I would even say even tougher than like Ellen Ripley. And to see her just kind of be there, just kind of like
I
standing
know.
by. I love Marion. Don't even. Let's
I
not
love
start
Marion
this
too,
argument.
but she beat a dude with a pot. That's not the same thing as sucking an alien out of a ship.
Yeah.
Or just driving the car around, but that's a different
And she
ROJ.
can outdrink you. She probably could outdrink Ellen Ripley. I don't know.
Yes,
She could
I
outdrink
do
me.
believe that.
Easily.
Yeah, that's true. Me too.
No one's saying Marion isn't great, but I'm not going to sit here and let anyone badmouth Ripley. I won't do it,
I do
Ryan.
like-
I'm not
They're
bad mouthing
different,
her.
though.
I'm just saying she's better.
I like that she's not the same character, but yeah, I mean, it's painful in the way that it has no depth to it, but it's nice
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, she's an actress. This is someone completely different that I'm seeing now.
I was pleasant. I was very pleased to see her. I'll say
Yeah,
that.
Andy McDowell must be pissed that she didn't get that part.
Oh yeah. Sure,
She would
sure.
actually be better suited for it.
That's the joke.
Like she. Oh, okay. Well, fuck me, I guess.
That's why we call him rarely gets a joke, Ryan Rodriguez. So, the Vern, what has been keeping you busy? What are you up to?
Oh gosh, doing the podcast here right now, Cinema Recall. We are in the midst of our De Palma December. We're covering the movies of Brian De Palma. We just released an episode on our Patreon page, patreon.com/Cinema Recall Pod, with Ryan himself talking about Body Double. the
Oh, so much fun.
1984, Brian De Palma feature with Melanie Griffith and Craig Wasson, Greg Henry. Very much an homage to Vertigo and Rear Window. And it's a lot of fun talking about the movie. And that should be coming live to your ear holes on Friday for everyone else. Right now it's on Patreon, but by the time this episode posts, it should be available to seduce its way into your ear holes.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear all about the De Palma movies. I mean, my favorite one's Carrie.
Gonna be coming that one with the Good Evening Kitties podcast.
Ah.
Now you obviously have a lot of expertise in film and cinema recalling. So do you have a suggestion that you think people should check out for a holiday or Christmas movie that you recommend people watch?
Okay, yes, I do. And right now it's currently streaming on Hulu. And that is Anna and the Apocalypse.
Oh, good movie.
Oh, I saw that
Oh, it's
last year.
Christmas.
Very
yeah.
good.
Ah, yeah.
It's a Christmas movie because it's at Christmas time.
Oh,
It's a musical that involves zombies.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
that
So
sounds.
the
Do the
holiday
zombies
Christmas
sing?
Musical, they
No.
do not. Sadly enough, they should, but they do not sing. But it's about this girl named Anna, and her school is being invaded by zombies, and her classmates have to get away. And they have songs. And at first, I was cringing because I'm like, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be kind of bad songs. Even though the trailer kind of sold me on the movie, I was thinking, this is gonna be too much like a High School Musical delete type of thing. And I gotta say, the songs are actually not bad. They're pretty damn good. There's a few songs I could do without, but the first 3 songs are bangers. I love them.
It is, if you
Thanks.
took Shaun of the Dead and mixed it with High School
Mm.
Musical, it'd be Anna and the Apocalypse. It's really good.
To me, though, missed opportunity. Though, if you had the zombies grunting and growling the whole time, and then finally a spotlight drops on one, and he opens his mouth, and like it's basically Bocelli coming out, just in a heartfelt,
solo, yeah.
just a heartfelt, crystal clear, beautiful voice talking about just the angst of being undead and what that feels like.
And
That
the whole
would,
time it's
Hungry
falling
all the
apart.
time, you just don't get it.
He hits the high note and then his arm falls off.
No, he hits the high note and his jaw falls off. Right?
Oh, there you go. That's much better. Yeah.
He could do like
That's
a
why I
cover
don't
of
wait
Creep.
movies.
He could do like
It'd be a
that
terrible movie.
an
I'm just gonna say
like
that
a
right now.
acapella version of Creep.
The only
Oh.
downside is that at no point do they ever sing Thriller.
Thank
Good.
you. Good.
Yeah, that's good. That makes a movie. If they did
I'm
do
glad
Thriller,
I'm glad they
I
don't.
would
How would
be-
you
Ah,
get the
shame on
rights
all
to
of you.
it?
Shame
And
on all
and
of
and
you.
since Dylan thinks he can
Thriller's
throw his
good.
weight around and tell us my movie's ideas are terrible, why don't you give us your recommendation for this week?
Oh, I will. I am going to recommend 1985's Santa Claus the Movie, starring none other than Dudley Moore and John Lithgow. And I'm recommending this one because it's my dad's favorite Christmas movie. It is a bit of a hacker, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But it does have Dudley Moore as like this little elf who's trying to undercut Christmas from Santa Claus by working with John Lithgow, who's a business toy tycoon.
Of
And
course.
but Santa, he comes out to save the day, and it's a lot of fun.
It's
and
the
actually, I gotta say-
Lithgowiest Lithgow performance I've ever seen in my entire life.
That's true, but you know what I will say though, in its defense, because even though like it's a bit of a hacker, the beginning with Santa's workshop, the aesthetic there, all the handmade wooden toys and the bright colors that they're painted, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Those were all
And,
made in the sweatshop.
probably by real elves, I'm sure.
Possible. But no, okay, good call. How drunk is Dudley Moore throughout the movie?
Fairly drunk. You could constantly see him like nipping some like little like elf flask. It's hilarious.
Elf flask.
No, I made
No,
that
no.
up. I don't know. I just assume he's drunk though.
So Dylan, is your love of like Santa Claus the movie because of Dudley Moore the same reason why I liked Scrooge because of Bill Murray? So if you like Dudley Moore, you like Christmas.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to think about it. It really is just a lot of nostalgia value. You kind of put it on because you always watch it that time of year. It doesn't hold up the way like a Muppet Christmas Carol or the Grinch does. But it's still a fun one to put
you're not
on.
talking about the Dr. Seuss Grinch, are
No,
you?
no.
Oh, good. Shoo. I had a-
And
got
We don't
Santa
talk about
Claus in that movie is played by the guy who plays the real Lebowski in The Big Lebowski.
Oh,
Really?
that guy.
Oh,
Oh, David Huddleston. Yeah.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah. No, you're right. Now that I did not know. That is hilarious.
It puts a lot of different context on the movie once you know that little trivia fact.
Piss on someone's rug. So let's toss this one over to Big Ben. What do you got for the holidays for us?
I'm going to recommend 2007's In Bruges. Some people might debate whether or not it's a Christmas movie, but it is set at Christmas time, and that's a very intentional choice. It's sort of Christmas of the existential kind. And I don't want to spoil why it's sort of a Christmas movie.
was it
all
written
that
by
kind
Shane Black?
of was it?
Was it written by Shane Black?
No, it
Oh,
wasn't.
no, it wasn't.
But
Okay. Oh,
the
all
same
right, okay.
Martin McDonough.
Oh, okay.
Great movie though.
sounds more correct.
All right.
It all comes together more at the end, which you should just sit through it and get there. It's a black comedy. It's great.
Colin Farrell's
Yeah,
so good
In
in that.
Bruges.
I do like Colin Farrell. Was that around that period where Colin Farrell was just
Oh.
making tons of movies? And
Yeah, it was kind of
And
like right when that period started to end.
Was
but
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2008. It was right towards the end.
Yeah, I was like seeing everything Colin Farrell, and then I don't know, he started punching people and stuff, and I stopped.
Ben was in Bruges with Colin Farrell and also Ray Fiennes as
Yep,
the two
absolutely.
hitmen. Oh yeah,
Mm.
that's a funny movie. I've not seen that since theaters. That's a funny movie. Damn.
That's a good one. Leave it to Big Ben. Ryan, the successful. I don't have an R thing for you, Ryan. I don't know.
Well, that's all right.
Oh,
They can't all be
jeez.
winners.
No.
My recommendation this week is a very festive one, which is weird for me because I'm really not a holiday movie kind of guy.
Sure.
It's the recent rom-com Happiest Season, starring Kristen Stewart, Mary Steenburgen, Aubrey Plaza, Dan Levy, Allison Brie, and the greatest TV dad ever, Victor Garber. It's incredibly sweet. It's often very funny. And honestly, it's just refreshing to see a queer mainstream rom-com. You can see where it's going the whole time, but getting there is a delight. And it's streaming on Hulu.
Allison
me
Brie
Aubrey Plaza.
and Aubrey Plaza?
It's, I know, right?
I'm sold.
It's, wow,
I'm already sold.
such a good movie.
Give the other movies a chance.
Yeah. And for my recommendation, I'm going to echo the theme. I'm going to have two. I'm going to pull a Ryan, and I'll have two.
Oh!
And
I quit.
I'm gonna echo the point we've made all episode to see Muppet Christmas Carol. If you haven't seen it this year, I mean, I don't care if you've just seen it, but if you have not watched it this year, watch it this year. Watch it right now. It's the single best quintessential adaptation of the Dickens classic, and it is without a doubt the best feature-length Christmas movie in history. Nothing touches Muppet Christmas Carol. I watch it a few times every Christmas season.
Well, maybe Muppet Takes Manhattan, but that's another.
That's not a Christmas movie.
Oh, true.
No,
You know?
the best Muppet movie we all agree is The Great Muppet Caper, but
No, it is still Muppet
John
Christmas
Denver and the
Carol.
Muppets.
It's still Muppet Christmas Carol. Even I'll watch that even when it's not Christmas. I don't care. And then my other recommendation, of course, I have to recommend Ernest Saves Christmas. Because
Right.
how could we do Christmas movies without mentioning the greatest Christmas movie to ever feature Jim Varney? And Ernest, of course, helps Santa find his successor, and in the process, saves Christmas.
spoilers.
I'm just saying, the
What?
title gave it away, Ryan.
Just like the movie The Mummy has a mummy in it, Ryan.
Right, exactly. But anyway, that is a standard classic. Know what I mean, Vern?
Yeah, you know what? That's a weird thing too. I am the Vern, and I've never seen an Ernest movie.
Get out.
What?
This is why you
Never
lost.
You do a podcast
Never-
about movies and you've never seen an Ernest movie.
Never
You
seen
What
an
the
Ernest-
hell is
Yeah,
this?
I know, right?
Jesus.
There's
What?
Oh,
blowing
Dylan's
your
having it.
minds out there.
He's going
You
in.
broke Dylan.
Holy shit! I just killed Dylan.
Yeah.
Tablet under his tongue. Put the tablet under his
You owe
tongue.
us a new one.
Oh,
They're not cheap.
Ernest is very
What?
important to every member of this
What?
podcast, especially Ryan.
Yeah.
Everybody
I will
really
fix
loves
this.
I'm more of a Slinky Dog guy, but
You know,
okay.
I will.
Oh my
Slinky
God.
Dog's great.
Hey, I may just do a whole month dedicated to Ernest movies. Who knows?
For
the love of God,
Yeah.
Do
This is
Jim
my show.
Varney movies and have me on to talk about Dr. Otto. I'll come on and talk about Dr. Otto.
That's technically an Ernest movie.
No, well, Ernest has a
Ernest
cameo
is
in
in
it,
it.
but it's mainly a Jim
Exactly.
Varney movie.
He saves Christmas, he
I
shows
got
up at-
to ease into Jim Varney. I got to start with the Ernest movies first, then ease into.
And then delve into his deeper catalog.
Oh, really?
Oeuvre.
His dramatic work
Yes.
right there.
If you're going to delve into his oeuvre like that, as
I gotta
Ryan
be
says.
careful when diving deep into Jim Varney right there. I may get lost.
Yes, you
Oh,
could.
man.
You may never find yourself, or maybe you will find
wait.
yourself.
I did see Ernest Goes to Africa. I have seen parts of that.
Ooh, I don't know if that one aged well.
Oh, well, now I feel bad for yelling at you.
Yeah, so that's like one I've actually seen. But no, Ernest You're Stupid. Ernest Saves Christmas. I just know Ernest is being the guy from the Sprite commercials. I'm like, oh, the guy from Sprite is making movies? Well, good for him. I'm glad he's found a career. And I'm like, all right, I can go watch something else. But yeah.
Don't forget
God
Ernest
bless
Rides
us,
Again.
Everyone.
Don't forget Ernest Rides Again, the definitive film about cannon riding.
He made porn?
Yes. He made a few
You
porns.
guys are always recommending 2 films. I'm like afraid I'll run out. I'm always a strictly one and done.
Well, my first one didn't really count because we talked about Muppet Christmas Carol the whole time. So it kind of got sniped.
That
I was
reminds
just
me, I have
reiterating.
7 more.
Oh,
Of course he does.
I realized one thing that I forgot to say about Scrooged, and it was
It's too late.
I know. It was a joke that I just remembered it right now. Oh, I could have just said that joke, and it was when they're watching TV ads, and they had an ad for Father Loves Beaver.
Yeah, that was great.
And
You know what? I'm sold. If you had mentioned that earlier, I'd been not guilty.
No,
You-
no, you wouldn't have.
You dropped the ball right there. It was just that.
Oh, man.
The
We'll
lack
never
of
know.
Father Loves Beaver. That's exactly what it is.
The Naked Gun has the best beaver joke. Though.
They do.
That is
yeah.
true.
So
Well, actually,
I-
that and Loaded Weapon 1 with the gratuitous beaver shot. That's actually my
With
favorite.
Emilio Estevez.
Yes, that's an awesome movie.
Anyway, with that, we want to thank the Vern for coming on and being our guest.
Yeah,
And,
thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
You can check out
Dylan.
Brian De Palma December, with his guest, Rampaging Ryan Rodriguez, who will be on there. And we look forward to having you back. And of course, it's Cinema Recall. Got to mention that Cinema Recall, De Palma December.
Great podcast.
And we'd love to have you back sometime and have you defend another film. Maybe successfully next time. I don't know.
I would love that. I would very much love that. I really kind of thought that I had it in the bag, but I realized that I was relying too much on other people's nostalgia of this movie, and I'm like, nah, I'm fine. I don't need to prepare at all for this. And then Ryan comes in there with all his notes, like, holy shit, he's actually prepared. Like, goddamn. So kudos to you, man. I serve you a beer. Dylan, Rob, Ben, you gents are all great, and I welcome you back on our show very, very soon. Yes, I'd love to have you on there to talk about anything, movies, TV shows.
Oh, we'll be there. We're going to be there for the Jim Varney month.
The Jim Varney month. That's
Yeah.
gonna be on.
Jim Varney February.
Varney.
And with that, we're all out of show for this week, but we hope you'll join us next time as the reels of justice keep turning.
Count
Cheers.
it.
Bye-bye.
Wheels of justice keep on turning.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.